Hi guys, and welcome to another video. Today we are going to take a randomly generated fantasy forest and create some art with the prompt. I'll be, once again, using Magical Girl random generators. I've used these generators 3 times, 2 of the times you have seen in my collaborations with Ollie Sprout. This one is the witch character generator that we did in October of last year, and this one is a Magical Girl character design challenge. The 3rd time was a video I filmed in December. The video itself will never see the light of day because I ended up being really disappointed with the piece and the process I used. I'll show it here. I used the deity generator. It was a great generator, trust me, it just was user error. Back to today's random generator, we're going to use the fantasy forest generator. I wanted to push myself today, and environments are not my strong suit. I do make some mistakes with perspective in this project, but I'm still proud of the outcome. Okay, so I gave myself 3 roles just in case I didn't like some of the aspects. I wanted somewhat of a choice, but like a random choice. So here's the first role. While exploring these sparse woods, one might encounter flying dragons with horse-like features, or meet a curious giant native to the woods near a stone archway with only darkness visible at the other end. Now here's the second role, which is the one I end up going with. In the dying woods, the last priest tending to a porcelain statue of a creature with foreign runes carved into the base searches for a waterfall flowing from impossibly high up. Animals made of colored light roam throughout. Immediately, I was excited about the animals made of colored light and the opportunity to design a creature statue. I went to Procreate and wrote down the aspects I wanted to use: a tall waterfall, the porcelain statue, the last priest, and the animals. I already knew there was a composition I wanted to achieve, having the waterfall be a central point, but I realized very quickly that I would have to do some ideation for the creature statue before moving forward with anything else. This is my favorite process to use when creating something more creature-y. I blob in a shape and carve until I have a silhouette I enjoy. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to go for at this point, but I knew I wanted this crescent shape at the top. Finally, I roughed in a tail, and this is when I decided to go with a Naga concept, a half snake, half lady goddess. I'll get more into that later. So I scrapped the top bit and started to elongate the shape into a more womanly form. This is where I started to develop a story to go along with this creature, or goddess, as I said earlier. This is Zamia, the goddess of trickery against men. Zamia means snake in Bulgarian, and I just thought it sounded cool. My lore regarding this goddess is founded very heavily on Medusa, but I switch it up a bit. Zamia, similarly to Medusa, had some terrible things happen to her by people. These people, however, were mortal men. This is where my story diverges from Medusa, who was abused by various different gods. Zamia eventually was killed by men after being hurt time and time again. Due to her misfortune, she was noticed by Svetlina, Bulgarian for light, a goddess of karma. Zamia was granted godhood and was given the one sole purpose of putting men in their place. She first enacted karmic justice on those who hurt her most. These men were used as an example on how not to act. Side note, I want to put out there that Zamia is not a good goddess. She punishes far too harshly and makes it personal. I do not agree with the action she takes. This is just a storytelling exercise. So, anyways, men grew fearful of this great snake-bodied goddess. Of course, when you fear something, there are a few things you can do: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Here's the problem with most of these options. Fighting a goddess is not as easy as it seems, especially when you're a mortal and she is immortal. Fleeing the scene doesn't really work either, as she's a goddess and has some level of omnipresence. So now you're left with freeze and fawn. Freeze in this instance means you change your behavior, which sucks. You don't want to change your behavior. Because become a man that does not deserve karmic justice in her eyes. That's one of the options. And then there's Fawn. Fawn means you appease and try to make the threat less angry at you. This is where the priests come in. A whole religion ended up forming around Zemaya, and this religion consisted mainly of men who hoped that kissing Zemaya's ass would save them. This was true to a degree, but being closer to a goddess means you're being put directly under a microscope and are held to higher standards. The final priest is the last of his kind. The last one to not have angered Zemaya to his destruction. Quick side note, I totally screwed up the perspective on this piece. I used a 1-point perspective grid when I really should have used a 2-point grid for what I was doing. It doesn't totally ruin the piece, but I know I could have done better and it could have made more sense. I really enjoyed the story and design for Zemaya, so I'll definitely be drawing her again. Keep an eye out for that on my socials. Also thinking about designing Svetlina, since she didn't get a design for this piece. As far as line work goes for this piece, I used a monoliner. Almost the whole piece is the same line weight, except for the foreground, which I made a bit heavier to indicate it is closer to the viewer. The lore reasoning for the animals made of light was hard for me to come up with. Then I remembered that I literally named Svetlina the word for light in Bulgarian. This was a complete coincidence, but it was the perfect explanation in my eyes. I think this forest is one of the gods and goddesses, and Svetlina has these animal companions keep an eye on the forest for her. If anyone does something that is deserving of karmic justice, her and Zemaya are alerted by these animals and jump to action. I'm really glad I got to include these animals made of light because that means I get to use my favorite effect in Procreate, the bloom feature. It makes drawing neon things so much fun, and I probably use it too often, but who cares? I'm having fun. By the way, get used to this squirrel because I forgot it was on my screen for the rest of the video. So we have an emotional support squirrel to help us through this troubling time. I kept accidentally color filling on the wrong layer, so you'll see me undo, redo the colors, and undo and redo them again throughout this entire piece. So that was fun. Look at me go. Undo, redo, undo, redo, undo, redo. It was a whole thing. I decided to make this a nighttime scene to really use the light sources of the animals to my advantage. I wanted to play with bounce light and generally just practice using multiple light sources and having those be colored light sources as well. I don't really have much more to say about this piece, so please just enjoy the vibes. I did end up adding some extra details after filming this, but here's the final piece with those details added. I had a lot of fun playing with the bounce light in this piece, and although the perspective is off, I'm incredibly proud of it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, follow me over on Instagram at solace_illustration. And if you want to support me and get some extra goodies, check out my Patreon. Lots of love, guys. Bye!